And you may remember the fate of Washington, D.C. in the film Independence Day. While D.C. is not facing an alien attack, there is reason to fear explosion in the nation's capital. Why? Well, researchers have found about 6,000 natural gas leaks under the roads in the District of Columbia. At least 12 of them are potentially explosive. Duke and Boston University researchers drove down every street of D.C. to measure the leaks. Most are said to not pose any risk to the general public. However, they could add to climate change. Joining me to discuss is D.C.'s Shadow Senator Paul Strauss. Thanks for coming.
Happy to be here.
So are we going to blow up or what?
I think the risk of D.C. blowing up the way it does in those Hollywood movies is a little bit exaggerated. If you're planning a trip to our nation's capital, by all means, come visit. It's not likely to blow up anytime soon. But what is exploding is D.C.'s population. Thousands of residents are coming here every year, and that continues to put pressure on an aging infrastructure, and that's really what's at the root of this problem.
And the researchers, they warned Washington Gas about the 12 locations that were potentially explosive. They fixed them 4 months later. 8 of them were still explosive. So is this even really fixable? Well,
it's certainly a lot of... It's very concerning, and the last thing I want to do is minimize the risk of this, but we don't want to sensationalize it either. This is not a unique D.C. problem. For example, the same research study showed that in Boston, a similar problem with gas leaks was there. And in fact, just about every major East Coast city with an aging infrastructure is facing this problem. What makes it different in Washington, D.C. is that we're not as equipped to deal with it. For example, in Boston, Senator from Massachusetts, Ed Markey, almost immediately introduced legislation that would call for a revolving fund to fix these gas pipelines, tighter standards. In the District of Columbia, I'm not able to co-sponsor this bill. I'm not able to vote for it. So our lack of federal representation is once again hampering the way we deal with an important national problem.
Yeah, and the infrastructure here with these pipes, we can't see it. These are all underground, so it's not like bridges and roads that we use every day. So because it's kind of hidden, does it get neglected?
Well, a lot of our infrastructure gets neglected, including the bridges, including the roads. You know, we just passed a omnibus budget bill that has restored a lot of the sequester cuts to the defense industry. So we're investing money nationally to maybe blow things up in other countries, but we're not spending the money we need on infrastructure to keep things from exploding here at home. We have Americans that want to work, that need jobs. We have jobs that need doing, and we're not investing in infrastructure repair the way we ought to be. And that's unfortunate. This is a classic example, along with bridges and roads, of something that we should be spending our money on that will make our cities safer, make our country safer, and help put Americans back to work.
Right, but we also have a lot of debt in this country, too, and we have to prioritize our spending. There's just not money for everything. So where on the priority list does this lie, and what is more important than infrastructure?
Well, I think infrastructure is very important, and it doesn't necessarily mean that these projects have to be borne by the taxpayers. We have a robust natural gas industry that profits from putting gas through these pipelines. Stricter enforcement is necessary to make sure that those who are selling this gas to the consuming public have a responsibility for keeping them safe. But we need to do our part at the national level to make sure that this isn't seen as a local problem, when in fact it's a problem that's occurring in many, many of our major densely populated cities.
So are you hiring for higher taxes in the natural gas industry?
I think we need tighter regulations, and I think that there is something that we need to do to replace these aging cast iron gas lines. We can't continue to use technology from the 1880s to power our needs in the 21st century.
Right, and like you said, we're not the only city that's dealing with this. And in Brazil, in 2012, it got so bad that they created a Facebook game. There was an app made where players had to try to dodge the manholes. You can see we have some footage of it. But this is no joke. Manhole explosions have flattened cars. They've killed people. And there was a massive explosion in Georgetown several years back that caused a lot of damage. Luckily, it didn't hurt anybody. But is it possible that these manholes could hurt somebody?
Absolutely. This is a dangerous problem that requires an immediate solution. There is a bill in Congress, there's a bill in the Senate, but what is happening is that if you're from the District of Columbia, one of the cities most affected by this, you can't effectively advocate for this bill in Congress because you don't have a vote. That's one of the things that's worrying me. So kudos to Senator Markey, who represented Boston as a member of the House and represents the state of Massachusetts. But urban centers are votes short when it comes to dealing with issues like this in the United States Senate, which is why things like D.C. statehood are important, not for politics, but because public safety is often implicated in our disenfranchisement.
Right. Budget autonomy, I know, is an important civil rights issue to you and to the members of the district. This is Senator Paul Strauss, the U.S. Shadow Senator for the District of Columbia. Thanks for joining.